What's up, guys? This is Jamar Dawson, episode number 13 of the Off My Chest live show. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I wanted to talk about what everybody's been talking about, what everybody on the East Coast has experienced for the last week or so, and that's the Colonial Pipeline attack. I figured, look, let me bring on a security expert to talk about that. I want to talk about the threat to ordinary people and what we can do to protect ourselves and fight back. So the individual I'm going to be speaking with today has decades of experience in the IT security space. He's been consulting for cloud technology specifically. Most recently, I would like to welcome Clyde Graham to the show. Clyde, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Jamar. Thank you, man. I appreciate the warm welcome for having me on tonight.
Most definitely. So Clyde, as we all know, anybody who has a computer or radio or anything like that knows that there was a massive attack last week that shut down a lot of gas stations because the Colonial Pipeline got completely taken offline. There's been all sorts of stuff. Some news networks said that the hackers actually manually were able to shut the pipeline. Some people say there's some other types of stuff. What really happened from your perspective?
Yeah, I don't think they were quite that sophisticated, to be honest. It was a ransomware attack. Like I say, modern day extortion kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Just some bad actors looking for some money and looking for an easy way to get it. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
So it was just an attack. Trying to lock some files, encrypt some data or whatever, and see if they can get some money out of somebody. And it looks like it works.
Yeah. So can you explain a little bit more about ransomware and how that is different than other types of hacking out there?
Oh, sure. I mean, we're all susceptible to it, right? Somebody gets into your system, they can lock certain files, put their own password on it, encrypt it with whatever encryption technologies they may be using, basically making it inaccessible to you or anybody that you want to have it until you send them the check, whether it's Bitcoin or whatever, So that's all they're looking for. They're just looking for a way to lock your data up, and they can obviously do what they want with it after that. If they have it, if they have access to it, they can use it. They can do whatever they want. So it's
Yeah.
just basically keeping you away from it or using it, whatever. It's just a way to extort money out of you.
It's crazy that things have kind of evolved to the place to where people can do that from behind a screen instead of having to
Right.
hold a gun to your head. That's wild. So, what ways can a company or a group get in to hack someone's system to put ransomware on there? Is there just like, somebody send an email? Like, what is like the threat vector, so to speak?
Yes, it is. It's, I answer that pretty openly because it is really open. It could be an email. It could be a link on a website. It could be just any kind of phishing. Phishing is, if you think about it, you cast a net. You're trying to catch something. That's what they
Yeah.
do, right? They throw it after the biggest audience they can find and see what they catch.
Wow.
Unless like this typical one or this one we're talking about here is targeted. Uh, but I mean, it's whatever way they can get it, that's what they're going to do. So yes, through
Wow.
an email, through a hyperlink, be very careful if you're trying to go to uh, CNN.com. Make sure it says CNN.com spelled exactly like that, not CNN or something like that. So there's all kind of tricks they use.
Wow.
I've even saw earlier where they're using different alphabets. So, it might look like a typical A when it's really not. So
Wow.
they'll use any trick they can think of. So,
Wow. So, according to some rumors, Colonial paid about $5 million to get their information back. I did some quick research before this interview today, and it looked like, I think in 2020, over $350 million was paid out in ransom by businesses. So, it seems like that's a pretty big deal. Do you think that the government should force these companies, especially when it impacts us, like this pipeline hack did? Do you think the government should force companies to have a certain level of security?
I'm probably in your line of thinking, Jamar. I'm real slow to um, say we need government intervention in our lives in any way. But that being said, there are certain contingencies we can take.
Yeah.
And, whether that's driven by the market force, which is probably the most convincing to some of these companies,
Yeah.
or whether it's through a government intervention, like you say, through what about medical data? What
Yeah.
about, anything like that that will impact our lives? So, yeah, there probably needs to be some controls, but at the same time, I think the market is, in my opinion, is probably going to be a huge factor as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, if your bank is being attacked by a ransomware attack or whatever, you're probably going to be hesitant to go back and do business with them, only
Yeah.
because they're not taking the right safety protocols.
Yeah.
I know in my experience over the years, there are certain organizations I will typically stay away from. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. It's funny you say that because uh, I remember years ago, I think Target released that somehow the credit card numbers of people who swiped had gotten taken
right,
or at risk of being taken. And I was like, and I'm done, especially paying with a credit card at Target. And I was able to hold that up pretty well until like last year or the year before when we had the babies. My wife's like, we got to get our car
right.
seats from Target, blah, 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 blah. And that was like the only place they had them. Go figure. But yeah, that makes sense. Letting the market set the value of the temperament of people, and then if the government needs to intervene, then I think that's a good balance there. So, what kind of damage could hackers do to critical infrastructure in the country or military systems if they got control? Is it a pretty big deal?
Oh, sure. I mean, I always tell people that if it's on the wire, I mean, if it's connected in any form or fashion, it can be hacked.
Wow.
Straight, simple. It can be hacked. There's people out there that are just a whole lot smarter than I am. And the thing is, they only have to be right once.
Mm,
We have to be right every time.
yeah.
So, as a security professional or as even an end user, you have to be on top of your game
Yeah.
because they can get in. Now, granted, people like you and I are probably smaller targets, Jamar, nothing personal, but, we're not worth several $1 million, but
Yeah.
still, if they get enough of us small potatoes, it's, they can do all kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
everyday caution is critical,
Yeah.
and they absolutely can. If they desired, they could wreak havoc. And you see the stories all the time where
Yeah.
people's identities are stolen. I don't know about you, but I've had my bank account. I had to go turn in my credit card because somebody hacked it, and they had charges in some other state. So
Yeah. Wow.
that's it can be done.
And so, kind of piggybacking off what you just said, I think over this last week, people are starting to realize that this is, at least the attempts are happening more frequently to businesses than we ever thought, at least to the common person. How prevalent is it to the individual? Like someone trying to take my stuff, or you said that your bank card was compromised. How prevalent is that?
Well, you know, if you look at a typical organization or a typical account in general for email, let's just say over 99% of the emails that come to your account are spam. Now, does that mean they're just trying to sell something? Probably, but in those, there's probably some phishing attempts. In other words, some bad links to go
Yeah.
to sites. So it's more common than you realize, and that is partly because we do have some good engines out there and good stuff out there that does protect us.
Okay.
If we weren't using anything, we'd be wild, wild west.
Yeah.
So I would say you're probably attacked a lot more than you realize,
Wow.
and especially bigger organizations. They have a lot of methods in place to stop this kind of stuff, and the company I work for has some great tools that stop the majority of it. But
Yeah.
still, they're slinging mud and dirt and every day, the bad guys are. So you have to stay vigilant. That's all there is
Yeah.
to it.
I think that that's pretty good by you saying, they just have to be right once. That's pretty insane. I just recently got into crypto. Like I just dipping like my small pinky in.
Right.
I'm not really in it at all, but I was like, people keep talking about it. Let me just see what this is about. And I went on Reddit, which is, a great source of information.
Right.
And because I'm real apprehensive before I do anything. And this probably was the wrong thing to read, but I read this one guy was like, help, I've had $30,000. No, he said he had $100,000 stolen out of his crypto wallet, and he only had 30,000 left. Like, what do I do? And it looked like from the replies that somebody had, I guess, guessed his password or something like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and basically went into his email. And so when that guy went to go and contact support or whatever, they sent like a confirmation to his email where they had access to it, so they basically were communicating back, oh, never mind, everything's okay, and we're able to just wipe out 100 grand like that, which is insane. What
It
would you
is.
say are some things that we need to be aware of, conscious wise, that we need to do, and what are some good methods to protect ourselves from attacks like this?
I mean, we hear it all the time. It's the simple stuff. It really is. It's make sure you have up-to-date antivirus protection. Make sure your browsing habits are safe. Make sure you're careful when you click on an email. That you're don't necessarily type that, click on the hyperlink that's in there or the URL. Maybe you want to type it instead of clicking it and whatever, going to your bank. Why don't you just type out the bank URL,
Wow.
or use your bookmark that safe. In other words, just take simple steps and change your passwords on a regular basis, and don't make it password.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the most common password for years. In fact, it probably still is. Use a passphrase. I like donuts for dinner. Anything, and use the punctuation. The longer it is, and use some special characters in there as well. The longer it's more difficult for a bad actor to hack
Yeah.
if you've got a little bit more stuff in it. So, and if you change it regularly, obviously that helps as well.
And that's tough to do. That's tough
It
to do.
is.
Now, what do you think about multi-factor authentication? That is becoming like a big deal, but it seems like a lot of folks have to opt in for certain websites, banks. Because I was checking it out on Bank of America yesterday. I think it was in Bank of America or Wells Fargo, and I had to opt into multi-factor. It's not that it's default. And do you think that is a good safety net or another level of protection?
Absolutely. There, what you see, what you know, and what you do. What you see on the screen, what you know is something in your head, the password, and what you do or what you are,
Yeah.
a fingerprint. I mean, that's hard to get, or whatever you use. I know Apple uses face recognition, whatever.
Yeah.
Some kind of two-factor is always a good thing. So the more complex it is, the better. And obviously, when you say banking or medical or anything, it's almost critical to use that nowadays.
Yeah. Now, if somebody was a victim of a breach, what would the steps you recommend they take?
Well, obviously, being prepared beforehand is the first thing, depending on what kind of attack you're looking at. Like I say, if it's a ransomware, hopefully you have your stuff backed up already on a
Mm.
secondary device. Especially anything that's critical to you, whether even it's just pictures of your loved ones. Nowadays, those are critical to us. I mean, we can't lose those, right?
Yeah.
So backup is key. Um, if it is some kind of attack where your account was compromised or whatever, obviously get in touch with the institution.
Mm.
Don't go through the hyperlinks. Get in touch with them directly. Maybe freeze the assets, whatever. Close the account as soon as possible,
Yeah.
if not sooner. Let them know what happened. Because a lot of these organizations do have insurance for that kind of stuff. So if it's banking type stuff, most of the time uh, they will assist with that. So anything you can do beforehand helps. Just the common preparation. Like I said, the antivirus, spam blockers. If it's going to your junk mail, you probably don't want to look at it. If you want to scan through it, because sometimes good stuff goes there. But just the common prep. And if it does happen, really, ransomware, you probably don't want to pay them. Hopefully, like I said, you're prepped beforehand. Um,
Wow.
that's the big key.
That's great advice. And I've started to try to migrate some of my stuff off to another device, another hard drive, but I'm lazy, admittedly. But
Aren't we all?
I
It's
think
true.
I think your advice really has put a fire under me to get right. So Clyde, thank you so much. Before we let you go, Because this show, we talk about politics, policy, most importantly, people. Is there anything that you want to get off of your chest and talk about? This is your platform to do so.
Oh my goodness, there's so much. Yeah, speaking of COVID, I'm thankful that that's all kind of coming to an end.
Yeah.
I feel like we're on the other side of that battle, I
Yeah.
really do. A lot of security, a lot was taking place even for that. A lot of people being really careful, which is a good thing. So
Yeah.
we've probably kept a lot of people healthy, so
Yeah.
but the good news is, like I said, we're getting on the other side. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, just something I always preach. In fact, I mentioned a minute ago about the pictures. Spend as much time with your family as you can, man. It's important. That comes first with
Yeah.
God and your family. So
Yeah.
that's it, man.
Man, thank you so much. We applaud you for coming. We appreciate
Thank you,
it.
brother.
I think that the audience certainly took away some good things. And if you guys want to get in contact with Clyde, hit me up and I will pass the message along or send a comment in this video, whether it's live or later, and he'll be able to see it. So thank you so much, Clyde. And we'll have
Yeah,
to have
buddy.
you on soon to talk about something non-IT security related in the future.
Awesome. All right, brother.
All right, take it easy.
Appreciate you, man.
Well, guys, thanks once again to Clyde. Awesome opportunity today. We talked about kind of the details of that ransomware attack on Colonial, and what ended up happening was because their systems were compromised on one side, they decided, let's go ahead and shut the pipeline down. Talked about that, the particulars of it. We talked about threats to us, the ordinary citizens, and of course, we talked about what we can do to stay safe. So I'm going to implement some of these things. I'm going to get a password authenticator. If I don't have one for some of the things that allow it, I'm going to get dual factor authentication. I'm going to probably go in and change some of my passwords because some of them are kind of weak, I'm going to be honest. And hopefully, we could all do the same. If you have any questions for Clyde, just leave them in the comments, even though this video won't be live. Obviously, once we stop going live, the comment will live in the comment section. I could funnel those over to Clyde. So if you have any questions for him, please just let us know. Thanks for joining once again. Before I let you go, I do want to send one sentence of encouragement, if I will. This actually comes from Psalm 25:21. It says, "May integrity and uprightness protect me, because my hope, Lord, is in you." I think this is significant, especially when we're talking about security, because when we operate in integrity and uprightness or righteousness, then it kind of guards us. It guards our name. If we're not there, if people know we've been operating in integrity and uprightness, then if there's some gossip and other things, some people are going to be like, wait, hold on, I know the integrity of that person. They wouldn't be doing that. They wouldn't be saying that. I think that when we operate with integrity and righteousness, it builds up goodwill. It builds up blessings from the perspective of our fellow man and with God. And so I encourage all of us to just operate with integrity and uprightness, because I believe it pays dividends. It really does. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we could all hang out again next week, same time, same place, the Off My Chest show. And you guys have a good week. Take it easy. Be blessed.